The guy that throws the dynamite to blow up the hole in the ice. Did you hear about that one? Okay. It's a great story. It's a great heartwarming story.
Yeah, it warmed his heart.
It warmed a few things. So he's ice fishing, and he decides that the best way to open up the ice to start ice fishing is throw the dynamite out into the middle of the lake, right? Which seemingly is not the worst idea in the world.
Yeah.
So he proceeds to light the stick of dynamite and throw it out in the middle of the lake.
Okay.
Forgetting that his dog was right there who would chase the dynamite, runs and grabs it, brings it back, and the guy has to shoot his dog, wounds it, to get him to go away with the lit stick of dynamite, and the dog proceeds to then go bury himself under his guy's truck.
Oh, that's great.
And he blows up the truck.
Okay.
Yeah. So the guy actually lived.
He lived to tell his story.
That's where, it's a great story.
So that's an example of the opposite of what we're going to talk about today, Mike, which is artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
That's human stupidity.
Human stupidity versus artificial intelligence.
Let's dive into that.
All right. Artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically in the vein of branding and marketing.
Yes, of course, Sam.
Of course.
Yeah, we had this great conversation with Anati Zubia, formerly head of marketing at Quora. And it was a fantastic conversation. I would recommend everybody go listen to that.
Yeah.
Go listen to that podcast episode. It'll probably make our conversation make more sense.
Yeah.
But there were a few things that came out of that I thought would be really good to talk about. One of those is just like, what is one of the kind of ways that you need to go into AI? You're thinking about using AI, you're a marketer, you're maybe playing around with ChatGPT, maybe some Midjourney, creating some images, and you're thinking, wow, this is really gonna speed up my process. Maybe I'll be able to create things, write things, create imagery a little bit faster. But at the same time, you're like, man, I really still want to stay on brand. I want to still be authentic to who we are as an organization. And I think AI has the ability to help you with that, but it also has the ability, like all great tools, it can be used the wrong way.
Yep.
And it can create things that are inauthentic to your brand. So I think that's where we need to start. It's like, how do you approach AI with a brand first kind of thinking to it?
Yeah.
So I think the first thing is just, you still have to have the human relationship in mind, right? You're still marketing to human beings. You're building a relationship between your brand and actual clients, actual human beings who want to have a relationship at a human level with you and your firm. And AI can't substitute that.
Yeah.
That's just not something that it can do.
Yeah. I think there's two things that AI, and it's still kind of early in the game, but I think there's two things that it can do for you. Number one is just speed and efficiency. I would say also temper your expectations with that. It's not like you're just gonna work for 30 minutes a day and ChatGPT, Bard, whatever, is just gonna automate your whole job. That's not realistic.
Oh.
Sorry, Mike.
Dang it. I've been doing it all wrong.
But if you're
should probably get back to work then. Huh?
Yeah, we should.
Okay.
Let's speed this up.
All right.
Or we could just have AI do it for us.
Yeah. Hey, ChatGPT, can you
just finish the episode?
Finish the episode.
But I think what it can do really well is it can we call it unblanking the page. You're sitting there with just the white page, the blinking cursor, and you're like, I don't know where to start. Well, a quick prompt into Bard or ChatGPT, and you've got a wealth of content. Now, that content doesn't sound like you or your brand because it was created by a computer.
Yeah. And I think there's one other level of challenge to that content, and that is that it doesn't have a unique point of view.
It's true.
So just knowing that how these tools work, I think that's one of the most fundamental things of any tool is how does this tool work, right? If I'm publishing on social media, I should know how social media works, right? What's kind of the background of this tool so that I can use it the most effectively that I can. And I think AI is the same way. I need to understand the tool that I'm using. AI is aggregating from found content.
Yeah.
Right? So everything it's coming up with at some level is somewhat unoriginal, right? Now it might change the words, so it's not like a direct copy. It's not like you're plagiarizing people when you use it, maybe, although you might be. Yeah. So you need to be careful there. But it's still only producing ideas. It's only generating, I use generating loosely, right? It's putting on the screen an idea for you. So if you say, hey, name 10 current issues in the accounting industry, right? You're like, oh, okay, that might be an interesting thing to talk about. And it lists 10 of them out. You have to know that every one of those is from some source, right? It didn't just come up with those on its own. It didn't just like, because of its brilliance and its knowledge of the accounting industry, come up with 10 things that it thinks people are challenged by. It's like, no, it went and looked at all the content that's in its repository and went, here are the 10 that I think maybe the most frequently requested, most frequently mentioned, or in whatever way it's trying to amalgamate those. It's just spitting out other people's ideas. Yeah. And so if you really want to have a unique point of view as a brand, you need to still apply original thinking to that, right? So I don't think it removes the need for strategy. And I think that's what I keep coming back to over and over. And even after our conversation with Anati, I was like, I think as a marketer, the value you bring in producing a strategy around who are we trying to target, what goals are we trying to hit, how do we reach those people, what are the real issues? Now, AI can help you with some of those pieces of that, maybe help you do a little bit more research on those things, but it can't really generate unique ideas. And that's like the crux of the whole article that we wrote on this too. It's just that original ideas still have to come from you, from your team, from your firm, from the people that are experts in your field.
I've heard it said that I was once asked a question of like, how much of the information of all time lives on the internet? And I was like, like 75%. And the guy was like, less than 5%.
Yeah.
It doesn't know what you're thinking right now. It doesn't know what you ate for breakfast unless you put it on Instagram. Doesn't know what you drunk.
Or you ordered it through an app.
Yeah, exactly. But I was like, you know what? I think that's true. Like, the internet has been around for what now? 35, 40 years. AI is limited to that, right? It's limited to what lives online.
Yeah, and even that, I don't know that it's a full repository of everything that lives online. There's lots of stuff that's gatekept that it can't access. So yeah, you just have to kind of know. You need to know the tool. You need to know what you're working with and where it's getting its information and content and ideas, and even how it works, right? Like, one of the things that's so great about the human brain is it can take two totally unrelated ideas and find some way to connect them. And AI isn't doing that, at least not yet, and I kind of question whether it ever will, right? I think that's something that's pretty unique to the human brain. The human brain is not a computer. We like to use computer terms when we talk about brains, but they're not. They work fundamentally differently. And so like, a computer can only relate ideas that have already in some way been connected. It can't like, that's why like I was reading an article about a guy who went to a joke contest, like a pun contest. And he went, as a journalist, he's not a really punny guy, but he went and said, hey, I want to do the contest, but I'm going to put all the prompts through ChatGPT and see what kind of puns it can come up with and whether it can compete or not. And they were awful. They were like, oh yeah, this will be really funny. Let's go ahead and do it. They let him compete, and the puns that the ChatGPT came up with were just either like nonsensical, like did not make sense, or just weren't funny, or were just like, well, duh, like very cliche answers. And it was like, a pun requires you to understand words and how things relate to each other that aren't really related. Right? And so,
and even the audience that's listening to that too,
they're interpreting those things, right? And so like, there's an element of like, an AI just can't do that for you. I know we talked to Anati a lot about like some really good things that AI can do for you. I think there's like lots of efficiencies you can gain out of it.
Efficiencies. One thing that I think we've seen is that you can use AI to kind of just teach yourself stuff. We have a guy on our team, Chris, our operations guy, who's been on the podcast, friend of the show. Hey, Chris. He uses ChatGPT to like teach himself how to code. And build scripts. Like, that's not something he
did not know that coming to Resound. And that was not part of his job description either.
And I would bet that there's a lot of marketers out there that don't know how to code, but you know how to tell ChatGPT like, hey, I need to build a code for this, this, and this, and it's not gonna be perfect. It's gonna take some trial and error, but that's a great way to just like kind of teach yourself how to code without spending hours and hours and hours Googling different threads and all these different back channels. So that's been really cool. I think, last thing I'd like to touch on is, we've talked about the content side. What about like the visual side? There's everything from image generators to video generators now. You can like generate an entire video using AI.
PowerPoint. You can create whole PowerPoint presentations with AI, both visuals and content. That's a little weird, but...
Yeah, a little strange. But I think there's some really cool things out there. You know, instead of hiring a watercolor artist to create 500 icons for you, you can craft your prompts. Let's say in Midjourney is a popular image generator. You figure out a prompt for a certain style, and then you just duplicate that for different images, and what you can create from that is really remarkable. You can create really anything. You know, you need an icon for, boss man in his office, or you need an icon for a megaphone or a houseplant or whatever, and it's gonna create that. Now it takes time, it takes trial and error. Again, it's not perfect, but you can create those kind of custom elements using your brand colors, using your own style, and it cuts out, an incredible amount of work and time and cost.
I think as you're talking, I'm just thinking like how much more valuable your own style guide is, and like a guide, whether it's content, having like a voice guide for how you talk, and maybe even having some like really good, really locked down content that's in your voice that you can feed into your AI engine and say, hey, I want to write about this topic. We haven't written about that yet, but I want it to sound like this content we've already written, and have some of those keywords plugged in there that are your branded keywords. Same thing with like your imagery, right? Like if you know like, oh, we're using watercolor with these certain colors, you can then prompt, Midjourney or whatever image generator you're using to stay within brand while still creating something. I think that's really cool. I hope that there's more like maybe some layers that come onto technology to make that a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And that'd be cool if you could like load your brand, personality and palette and stuff in there.
Canva's, a lot of people use Canva. They're kind of starting to do that. You can kind of build your brand kit. I don't know if that's applying. They do like AI within their platform now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can apply your brand kit to that.
I haven't seen that yet.
I'm sure
it's mostly just image generation.
Yeah.
And it still has all the flaws of like everything else. I feel like still like I went to a little bit of art school, and I just remember like the benchmark of like a great artist was when you could actually draw hands.
Oh yeah.
And apparently like hands are like the hardest thing to draw and replicate well and make it look normal. And I feel like AI is like still in school. Like every single image that has hands or like feet. I was watching an artist friend of mine. She was putting out some images she had created through AI or found through AI of birds. And all the feet were like inverted. They were wrong. Yeah. And I was just like, what is it with AI? Why can't it like generate them correctly?
I think somebody needs to give AI a hand with that. So.
Yeah, probably.
So Mike, should marketers use AI in their jobs?
Sure.
Yeah. I think you have to.
I think you're gonna have to a little bit. And I think as it gets better and better, it'll be clearer like how to use it, when to use it. Again, caveat, nothing that it's creating is totally original. Yeah. So you need to know that. Like if you are looking for like the most like complete original content, the most complete original artwork, visuals, I think you still need to have like an artist, you need to have a writer creating that stuff for you. Yeah. But if you just need some like quick hit stuff that's maybe not gonna stand the test of time, it can be a great tool for that stuff.
Talk to the other people in your firm, the partners of your firm. Talk to your boss about it too. There's no reason to like be secretive about the fact you're using AI. It's a great tool, but make sure everybody knows that and they're on board with it. We've talked to some firms where they've outlawed that. You can't
it's a
use
big
it at
no-no.
all. So you want to be sure with that. Just run that by the right people. But it is a great tool. We've used it for certain things.
Yeah.
We're still learning, but it's been a great tool.